Hello, welcome back. I was just reading your comments, and I'm so happy that the community that has sprung up around this channel is just so positive. Everybody is being nice to one another, and especially me. You're all so terribly kind to me. I don't know if I deserve all of that, but I will do my part to keep this community a very positive space for everyone involved. And, well, there really is no plan here, people. There really is no plan at all. But I have a story to read today. It is about a cabin in the woods. But this is not a basement story. Never fear. Piano Man is here. Here we go. We found another family's things in our cabin. Then we learned it was never ours. The first thing I, 40 female, found was a drawing of a horse on the refrigerator. It wasn't sinister on its own. My kids draw horses. This one had a blue crayon mane, and someone had printed "star" underneath it in the shaky capitals of a 6-year-old, and I stood there in the kitchen of the cabin in Vermont my family has been going to for 15 years, and I thought, that is not Penny's handwriting. That is not Clara's horse. I took it down. Behind it, a kid's family portrait, 4 figures in front of a lake. The lake was blue scribble. The 2 shorter figures had their arms sticking straight out like they were pretending to fly, or they were being frisked. Hard to say. I feel like I'm being tickled. I have to put these down. Evan, my husband, 39, male, came out of the bedroom holding a small green sock. This was in the nightstand drawer, he said. I put the drawings on the counter. From the living room, Penny, my 7-year-old, don't be concerned. This is not a creepy story. It's just atmosphere, called out, Mommy, there's a dent in the wall. Not a dent. A scuff, about a foot off the floor, the exact shape that happens when a kid's foot catches the baseboard during the zoomies. Kids have zoomies too? I thought that was just dogs. There were 6 of them in a rough line. Is this Sherlock Holmes? Like really? 6 scuffs in a row and you can tell that it's a foot? And she says foot, she doesn't say shoe either. A scuff that happens when a kid's foot catches the baseboard during the zoomies. I think we're dealing with a real sleuth here. Either one very committed kid or 2 kids. Clara, who is 9, reported from the bathroom, There's a Hello Kitty Band-Aid in the trash. I opened the kitchen cabinets. Our things were still there, like the cast iron pan we bought in year 2, the mismatched mugs, the tag sale knives Evan found in Montpelier in 2014, but there was also a white mug with a loon on it I had never seen before, and a red plastic cup, and a coffee can with decaf written on the lid in black marker that was definitely not my handwriting and not Evan's. Evan's handwriting looks like a seismograph. Someone else's decaf. Someone else's loon. Huh, Evan said. Huh, I said. I went to talk to the Pattersons. The Pattersons are our neighbors 2 cabins over, and we've known them for most of our 15 summers here. Helen was pulling weeds from her side garden when I came up the path. She straightened when she saw my face. There are children's drawings on our refrigerator, I said. Not our children. Helen put her gardening gloves together, her version of composing herself. Oh, she said. I wondered when this was going to come up. So, the Pattersons had watched a family arrive every March for years. A family with 2 kids, kept to themselves, always waved, once helped Helen carry her groceries when both bags split in the driveway at the same time. Helen had assumed we knew. Of course we knew. It was our cabin. We'd arranged it. They paid rent? I said. I assumed so, said Helen. To us? Helen shrugged. Beats me, sorry. I just thought they belonged there. I went inside and called my father. You see, if you will yourself to belong somewhere hard enough, you will. My father, John, is 71. He didn't come up this year because of his knee. He answered on the second ring, and I described the drawings, the sock, the loon mug, and he went quiet. Dad, you still there? Your mother handled all that stuff, he said. My mother, Shannon, has been deceased for 12 years. What does that even mean? I said. The cabin, the legal side, the finances, I wasn't. You know how I am with money, Sarah, or anything, really. I was a mess before Shannon, and I'm still one. I do know how he is with money. He keeps his savings split between a bank account and a Folgers can on a shelf in his garage. He considers this a sound strategy. Is that not a sound strategy? It's always a Folgers can, isn't it? Mom handled anything truly important. Dad's not lazy or irresponsible, just unpredictable. Dad, do we own the cabin? Dad? Your mother mentioned something to me once. I think maybe we didn't. It's possible we never owned it. Someone else owned it, and we were... there was an arrangement. A rental arrangement. Long term. A pause. I think I may have filed that information away and then never gone back to the filing cabinet. Or it fell over. For 15 years? But who has been paying? I've not been myself since we lost your mom, Sarah. He was right about that. I said goodbye and hung up. I turned around. Evan was standing in the kitchen eating crackers out of the box we had just brought in from the car, which is something he does that I have never successfully addressed in 11 years of marriage. What's wrong with crackers? If you gotta eat, you gotta eat. We might not own the cabin, I said. Okay, he said. So the other family, they might have been paying rent to someone who is not us. Okay, he said. Is that all you have to say? Evan looked at the cracker in his hand. These went stale in the car, he said. I think it's the heat. I like Evan. I spent the rest of that day on the phone. I called my mother's old lawyer, who had retired to Arizona, and she seemed startled to hear from me. I called her financial advisor, who was evasive. That is not what you want from a financial advisor, for them to be evasive. I went through the box of my mother's paperwork that my father had shipped to me when I sold the house, the box I'd always meant to go through and had it, and inside a manila folder I found a rental agreement from 1998, renewed in 2003, signed by my mother and someone named Anthony G., an address in Costa Rica. We were tenants. The property belonged entirely to Anthony, and always had. Clipped to the back of the rental agreement in my mother's handwriting on a torn notepad page, Tony's guy says we can stay as long as we want. He won't be needing it for a while. As long as we want. My mother has been gone for 12 years. We kept coming. The cabin kept being there. The key was always under the angel gnome by the front step, and we always put it back. I have questions about the angel gnome. That night, I lay in the dark in the bedroom of my cabin that is not, as it turns out, my family's property, and I listened to the lake, and I thought about my mother signing a rental agreement and clipping a note to it and deciding not to make a big thing of it. She was like that. She handled things and then put the thing somewhere it wouldn't cause trouble, and she expected the world to be grateful for this, which mostly it was. My father has a drawer in his kitchen that is entirely items she put there and that he has never moved because he doesn't know what they are. Expired coupons, a birthday card from someone named D. Everybody has a drawer like this, right? Surely I'm not the only one. I may actually have more than one drawer, which is not a name of anyone my father can identify. She put things in the drawer and the drawer became correct and nobody questioned it, and then she died and here we all are using the drawer. Tony arrived on day 2. I was on the dock with Clara when the car came down the gravel drive, a burgundy SUV from a car brand I didn't recognize. An older man got out, late 60s maybe, short-sleeve button shirt, chinos. He stood in the driveway looking at the cabin the way you look at a number that doesn't add up. Clara grabbed my arm. "Who's that?" I already knew. I walked up from the dock and he looked at me and said, "Where's Ryan?" "I'm sorry?" "Ryan, the groundskeeper?" "There was a Ryan who lived in the next cabin over." I pointed at the empty brown cabin down the shore. "The brown one? But I haven't seen him in years. He was there when we first started coming, but I don't think anyone's there now." The man looked at the brown cabin for a long time. Something crossed his face that was not a surprise. "That son of a—" He stopped, glancing down at Clara, looked me up and down. "And who are you?" I explained. His name was Tony, which I already knew from the rental agreement. He did not take the explanation well. "Squatters," he said. "We paid rent, but she thinks that she owns the place, so why would she—" I guess she thinks that her mother must have been paying rent, but she doesn't. It says paid, so maybe they paid rent at the beginning? To whom? I don't know anything about rent. That's why I'm here. That's one of the things we're figuring out. He called Ryan. No answer. He walked around the back of the cabin and came back around the front and went inside without asking. I followed him. Well, it is his cabin, right? He can go in. He stood in the living room looking at things. The cast iron pan hanging on the wall, the kids' artwork on the fridge, both ours and the Winter family's, the row of scuffs on the baseboard wall. He went to the front step and crouched down and lifted the angel gnome, a garden ornament with the face of a cherub and the body of a gnome, both at once, wearing an expression of aggressive serenity, and the key was still underneath. I need to see this garden gnome. Our key. His key. The key was here, Tony said. It's always there, I said. We arrive and it's there, and we keep it there. We leave and we put it back. He stared at me for a moment that was longer than comfortable. Then he called Ryan a second time, a third time, and got nothing, and said one flat, hard word in the direction of his phone, which I will not repeat here. From somewhere in the cabin, Clara called, "Mom, can we take the canoe out?" "Just a minute, baby." I called my father. He answered in a hardware store, and I told him the owner had arrived and thought we were squatters. "Is he reasonable?" My father said. "Not currently." Is he the kind of unreasonable that sues? I don't know yet, Dad. The sound of metal on metal. I'll be there ASAP, my father said. That afternoon was intensely awkward. The neighbor from the far cabin came over, Janice, who I'd known vaguely for years, a retired woman around 75 who had moved to the lake after her husband passed and who gardened aggressively and once gave us a jar of her own honey without explaining how or where she kept bees. Don't eat it. She had seen the Lexus and come to introduce herself, and she said to Tony, folding her hands, "I've been cleaning this cabin and its yards every April. I hope that's all right." Tony's eyebrows went up. "I'm sorry?" "Each spring. I do a clean, check the windows, that sort of thing. I hate to see a place go to pot. We try to do things like that, we Quakers." "I didn't arrange anything like that." "Ryan told me when I moved in 9 years ago that it would be fine with the people who owned it." "I am the people who owns it, Ryan," Tony said, and the name came out sounding like a diagnosis. Janice unfolded and refolded her hands. "That Ryan fellow did not seem like a reliable chap," she said, in the particular tone of a 75-year-old Quaker who has decided to speak plainly. Tony called his attorney from the porch. I could only hear one side of it. What I gathered was Tony had many properties. Ryan had been engaged to property manage this cabin plus others. Ryan had been paid for this. Ryan had, by all appearances, managed approximately none of them, relying on the natural courtesy of neighbors and the habit of families who put keys back where they found them. "Janice," I said, when Tony had gone to pace the driveway on the phone, "did Ryan specifically tell you to clean the cabin, or—" "He said the owner had requested he find someone, but he was having trouble." She paused. I suppose I took him at his word. I shouldn't have. "You cleaned someone else's property for 9 years for free." "It needed doing," she said. My father arrived just as the sun was going red. He was in his old truck, which has bumper stickers from fishing tournaments plastered all over the back. He parked, got a bag out of the back seat, and walked directly to Tony, who was sitting on the porch, still trying to reach Ryan, and stuck out his hand. "John Feldman, let's have a drink." Tony shook the hand firmly. My father is a very direct man. He went inside and came out with 2 glasses, and he and Tony sat down, and my father made a small motion with his head in my direction, "Get lost for a minute." I went to look for Evan and the girls. The canoe was gone, so they must have taken it. I heard the 2 men while I walked the shoreline. My father's laugh, then Tony's voice going low and slow, then a gap, then what was clearly an argument with Tony's voice rising. I kept walking for 20 minutes or so. No sign of them. The point curves around to a small beach on the far side of the lake, and there they were. Clara and Penny in the shallows, crouched over something, and Evan sprawled on a flat boulder watching the trees, and the canoe pulled up on shore. All 3 had the look of people who had completely lost track of time and were happy about it. The sky behind them was going less orange and more dark at the edges. "Hey," Evan called when he saw me. "What time do you think it is?" I called back. He checked his phone, made a face. "Huh. The canoe has no light. I was going to head back. When? Soonish. We're skipping rocks." "Evan!" "I have a flashlight on my phone. Get in the canoe," I said. Penny held up a flat rock. "Mom, look, this one." "Take it with you," I said. "Let's go." 2 adults and 2 children was just a little more than the canoe could handle. Clara and Penny sat in the middle together, squabbling about something. Evan in the back, me in the front. The bow of the canoe sat only a few fingers above the waterline. I want you all to appreciate that I did not say, "Bow." Context is everything, people. Context is everything. The paddle drips were very loud. The lake had gone flat and dark, and every sound came back to you from the tree line. Penny had her rock in her lap, and she kept turning it over. Clara had 6 rocks, she announced this, in her hoodie pocket, and the pocket was about to split. I noticed Evan was paddling with actual effort, which is not always the case with Evan, and I appreciated that he had correctly read that this was not really the moment to coast. Evan said, "There's still some light, technically." I kept paddling. "I was tracking the time." I kept paddling. "If it got dark, I had the—" "Let's chat later, Evan." Full dark by the time we reached the dock. The cabin lights were on, and down by the shore, at the fire pit, a large fire going. 2 figures sitting beside it, roasting something on sticks. Hot dogs. My 71-year-old father and the man who had called us squatters just a couple of hours ago were sitting at our fire ring, his fire ring, roasting hot dogs with a bottle of something on the ground between them, talking. Whatever the argument had been, it was over. I think we know what the argument was. They had the posture of men who have found a frequency. Tony looked up when we came up from the dock. He looked at the canoe. "That's a lot of people in a small boat," he said. "It was fine," Evan said. Tony made a sound, not in agreement. My father handed me a hot dog on a stick, which is how I knew he was happy. He poured something into a cup, and for a while no one said much of anything. The fire did what fires do. The fire burned. Penny demanded a hot dog immediately. Clara asked for 2. I located the marshmallows in the camp bin, and the girls transferred their attention entirely, as is right. Then Tony said to the fire, "My wife passed last week." Nobody said anything. She'd been sick for years. I kept meaning to deal with things, the business, the properties, the paperwork, all of it, and there was always a reason not to. I let other people do that. And then last week, he turned his focus to his food. So I drove north to deal with the rental situation. My father looked at the fire. He's not a man who says the right thing. He told me at my mother's funeral that the casseroles tasted like feet. But he said, "I get that." Tony looked at him. "Oh? I told you about Shannon," said my father. "Right, I guess you do." "I don't actually care much about this cabin," Tony said, after a while. "I really cared about it once. Julia and I bought it before the kids, and it was the first property we ever got. We came every October, and then the kids happened, and they wanted to go to tropical places, then moved away. She got sick, and I couldn't be bothered." "I was impolite to you today," he said to me. "You thought we were squatters." "I thought you were squatters, and then I kept being rude after I knew you weren't." I ate my hot dog. "My mother knew all about this," I said. "She signed a rental agreement and never mentioned it to anyone." My father couldn't remember. "I'm right here," my father said. "He didn't remember," I said again. "I didn't remember," my father confirmed. Tony drank what was in his cup. Then he said, "Her name was Julia. She was from Vermont originally. That's why we had places up here. She wanted something that looked like where she grew up." My father said, "Where's that?" "Stowe." "I know Stowe," my father said, which is his highest endorsement of a place. Tony was shocked. "I guess Stowe is a small place? Anyone from Stowe out there?" They talked about Stowe for a while. Then Tony stood up and stretched and looked at the cabin with the expression of someone about to say something about sleeping arrangements. I felt my shoulders go up. I said, "You're welcome to stay the night." That invitation did not go over well. "Look, it's my damn cabin to begin with. I really should..." And then he stopped. Because Clara, who'd been sitting on the far side of the fire ring this whole time without making a sound, building something with the rocks, had stood up and was looking at him. Tony looked at her rock sculpture. She looked at him. "Good work," he said, finally. "Thank you, Tony." Tony looked at the little cairn for a moment more. Then he nodded, slowly. He slept on the couch. Now there's a word you don't see every day. A cairn. His car started up around 7:30 the next morning. By the time I got to the window, the Lexus was already at the top of the drive. We stayed the rest of the 2 weeks. So he just left without saying anything? I mean, that almost sounds like a turn for the worse, don't you think? Janice came for dinner twice. At the second dinner, she mentioned that she had felt led to bring pies, which is how Quakers announce that God has weighed in on something. If pie is what happened when God weighs in, I could do with some more of God weighing in. Good pies. Ryan never answered his phone, as far as I knew. I found myself looking at the angel gnome differently. Its smug, bearded cherub face, its gnome posture, its total indifference to 15 years of people lifting it up and taking the key and putting it back. I need this gnome. Build me a gnome. Build me a gnome. I want this gnome. It can go in the basement. It can go in the basement. My mother had set this whole thing in motion and then passed away, and the thing had just kept on going. A week later, a letter came. We never get mail at the cabin. Penny brought it in from the box, and I stood at the kitchen counter with Evan beside me, eating stale crackers, and I read it out loud. "Dear Feldmans, I have located Ryan and am having him dealt with. And I have decided that you should have the cabin. You've treated it well, and the girls like it. I don't need it anymore. I'm off to the south for good. Here's another key. I'll have my people contact you to see about the legal side. Tony. P.S. Don't let Evan burn the place down." I love how all it took was this one moment of the canoe being too low in the water, and this guy has already just tarred and feathered Evan as this incompetent person. There was a key taped inside the envelope. I put it on the counter. "He's giving us the cabin," I said. "That's what it says, but he doesn't even know us." I thought about my mother's handwriting. "Tony's guy says we can stay as long as we want." "I think it's ours," I said. A few things before I end this. Tony's attorney did contact us, and the legal situation is, per our own attorney, genuine but somewhat complicated and will take several months to fully resolve. But the intention is clear, and apparently Tony is a man who does what he says. The phrase, "I have located Ryan and am having him dealt with." I've been turning this over for 9 days. I genuinely don't know what it means. It could mean a very firm letter from a very expensive attorney and a civil claim for unpaid services rendered, which would be appropriate. It could mean other things. Tony is a man with huge resources and connections and a recently deceased wife with a lot of pent-up frustration and a groundskeeper who collected payments for years and apparently laughed all the way to wherever he is now. I'm glad I'm not Ryan. But I'll assume the best. People can be good to each other. I'm posting this because you should see that. So, that was not exactly what I expected at the beginning. At the beginning, I was wondering if this should have gone down into the basement after all, but nothing spooky happening here. Just a little bit legally confusing and also financially confusing. Like, were they paying rent? Or was it her mother paid rent at the beginning? And was Ryan Tony's guy at the beginning? Don't forget that we do have a Reddit for this YouTube channel, our Piano Man Has No Plan, where you can post stories for me to read. If they're creepy, they'll go in the basement. And if they are comedic, if they are dramatic, if they are wholesome, then I'll read them up here. Whatever your story is, I want to see it. I will read it. Post it on the Reddit. You can send it to the Gmail, which is pianomanhasnoplan@gmail.com. I'm looking forward to seeing what you send me. Have a great week. Bye for now.